how do we know what parts of the brain do what things? And that's one of the things that we're trying to do in psychology is say, hey, this part of the brain does this, this part of the brain does this, and we now have that down to a pretty good science. Okay? Now, one thing real quick, and all of this is called brain mapping. One thing real quick is that we know that the right part of your brain is for the most part in control of the left side of your body and vice versa. We also know that if you mess with a certain part of a brain, let's say the hypothalamus in a rat, and you turn off the rat's hunger, and we know how to turn it on or turn it off, the rat will literally starve itself to death, surrounded by food, and it will die of starvation because the part of its brain that tells it to eat is no longer operating because we shut it off. And that'd be called a lesion, like if we destroy a certain part of the brain. Or if we destroyed a part where it made it want to eat all the time. It would actually eat so much it would blow itself up. Because it would think, I gotta eat, and its brain is telling it to eat. Right?
Brain is powerful.
Brain is very powerful, even in a rat. Now, if we destroy a part of a brain for whatever reason, that's called a lesion. L-E-S-I-O-N. Any questions on that?
No.
All right. Now, Sean behind me is going to have this kind of stuff, and what we're going to look at are the main ways that we can look inside your head to see what's going on. And the first one is called an EEG. Basically, you'd have a bunch of electrodes on your head going to a machine somewhere, and they're going to be almost like heart rates. You know, there's heart rates. It looks like heart rate, but it's brain waves. And it could be the brain active, the brain in the middle of sleep, the brain whatever. They're looking for something abnormal, or if it's normal or whatever. But those are EEGs. They're primarily trying to detect if there's an unnatural pattern in your brain waves. Because if there is, then there's probably something wrong. You've had a stroke or something like that. That would be one of the ways they'd be able to tell it. All right, we don't deal a whole lot with EEGs. The other four are much bigger. CTs. Now, I have to go through a CT scan. So I can't even tell you. In the last year, I've probably been through 5 of them. And the year before, I probably was through 10 of them. And they don't do them unless they need to do them because there are a lot of radiation and stuff, and too much radiation can tend to cause cancer. Of course, when you already have that, then they don't worry about that part as much. So a CT scan that they do on me, they don't do my head, because the cancer is down below that. But they could easily go up to your head too, and that's what the CT scans here are. For me, and I just deal with me and then know that the brain is the same as the body, it's looking at the tissue in your body. It's looking at what's going on. It's not looking at any movement or anything like that. So on mine, what happens is you can actually see the outline of the heart, not the moving heart, just the heart, outline of the kidneys, the lungs, you can see the stomach, which is right here, and now it goes into the esophagus. And then in mine, you see a little white spot up here on my aorta that's not supposed to be there, which tells them there's something there that's not supposed to be. And then I have one lymph node that had it in it too. And so again, one spot is popping up. In the brain, they're looking, they know exactly what a brain is supposed to look like, and they know if there's supposed to be gaps somewhere or not. And you see there, the bottom right corner, there's a big gap in there. That's probably somebody that's got a problem. That's more, above it is more of a normal brain. But there's divisions and ridges and everything else. Now, why would you use a CAT scan?
Tissue.
You're looking for a physical abnormality in the brain. You'll be able to see the brain doesn't look right. If there was cancer or something up there, you would probably see a big ball or something right in the middle that'd be a different color. And that would let them know something is there that's not supposed to be. Then they would test and see if it's growing or if it's benign. You know, my brother has one in his head, but it's a benign one. And so they may not ever even remove it, as long as the benign doesn't grow. It is not affecting much other than giving him headaches. If the headaches get too bad, they may go in and do a surgery, which would be big because it's in the brain, and they would take that out. But that's what they're looking for. So they're looking for some physical abnormality in the brain. Go to a PET scan. I've only had one of these. My wife threw a freaking fit after I got cancer. Why wouldn't they do a PET scan instead of a CAT scan? Because a PET scan will show a lot more. And they kept coming back, we don't do PET scans unless we have to, because the radiation is 10 times more in this than it is in the CAT scan. So we could do 10 CAT scans at the same risk to you as one PET scan. But they did do a PET scan on me. And in that, you either, I can't remember if they had me drink something, or if they intravenously put it into me, a dye going through my body. PET scan in your head is a dye going through your head. Now, what they're looking for is activity that should not be happening. Now, the brain is constantly active. Your brain is very active, so they don't even look at my brain because they know that's not where the cancer is. And how do they know what part of your body or brain is active? What does your body use to do activities? If the whole reason I bring you guys treats to buy from me to keep you awake is because sugar. Sugar. I can keep you guys awake by getting you a Pepsi just as easily as I can having you stand up for a minute. Sugar. And so when they're looking at the PET scan, they're looking for what parts of your body are using
Sugar.
sugar. Now, they can actually have you in a PET scan and they can say, pardon what I'm going to say, imagine something sexual. And there's a certain part of your brain that would light up for that. Imagine hitting a tennis ball with a tennis racket, and there's a movement part of your brain that will light up there. They've gotten so good at this, they can see what part of your brain is moving. They can say, you're thinking about a horse. You're thinking about playing a baseball game. And 90% of the time they're right. But the PET scan for me, the reason they did mine, is they know where the activity is supposed to be here. They know how much the pancreas is supposed to work. They know, well, there's an area of my body that's working on sugar that's not supposed to be right around the aorta. Again, where the cancer is and where I've got cells going to do something about it. Ronald, need a Pepsi?
Yeah.
Go get one. All right, move on to an MRI. MRI, by the way, did the last one, did that have colors on it? Different colors?
Yeah.
Red and yellow and stuff?
Yeah.
And I don't remember which colors are which, but, and you won't have to know, but different colors mean more activity. The brain's constantly lit up, because every part of the brain. And Jacob, will you see if there's any more Pepsis to fill in case I start knocking more people out?
You do.
I could actually make more money by being more boring.
No.
Foreman.
Yeah, he actually could. He gonna make money on me.
That's a
Not
cool
doing that on
strategy.
purpose,
You should have did that. You should have did your research on that. Can you make more money?
Well, Foreman, you can't do the experiment.
Still a couple chain links.
You can't do it with students.
And then we already know he's about to do it.
MRI, behind me, that's MRI is a magnetic resonance imaging. MRIs, I've had to have these two. They're basically, the main thing that these things are go to page 96. And give me the figure 11.3, the MRI of a healthy individual and an MRI of a person with schizophrenia. And you see on the one on the right with the schizophrenia how it's a much bigger gap there. The MRI and the CT scan do similar things, but the MRI is more refined. And the MRI is less radioactive. So why would you do a CT scan? They're cheaper and it gets more into detail than other parts of your body. I don't do very many MRIs, but I've had to have them. By the way, I had to have an MRI on my knee when I broke my knee. And what they're looking for, they're not looking for anything with the bones. They're looking for the muscles, the tendons, the
Cartilage?
what's the thing that connects the, not the cartilage.
Ligaments.
Ligaments. They're looking at the ligaments too, sorry. Right? And then there's an fMRI, go to the fMRI. This is similar to the PET scan in which you'll see more colors pop up. Functional MRI, meaning they're looking at what function. Remember when I said the sex and the horse and the basketball? This is what would pop that up. I misspoke before and I said it was on the PET scan. That'll tell where the activity is and it might help them identify what it is. But the functional one will tell them exactly where it's at and exactly what you're thinking likely. Yes.
So is this the do the dye also with this one?
Yes.
The
Yes. All of these use a dye of some sort. Even the CT scan, I have to go in 2 hours before and drink a Gatorade that they put stuff into, within like 15 minutes of a certain time, and then when I go back, it's in me. And then they also hook me up to the thing the port that they've hooked me up in, and there's other stuff going in. And it's not too uncomfortable, other than when they tell me it starts, it feels like you're peeing yourself. And they would tell you ahead of time, you're not peeing yourself, but it's gonna, all of a sudden you're laying down, I'm like, holy crap, I hope it's not wet down there, because it feels like it might be. And you can't lift your head, because it's gonna be 3 or 4 more minutes. And even though, you can talk to them, they gotta be in a different room. And I'll say, I feel like they said, you didn't. And I said, okay, are you sure? Yes, we're sure. Well, I think they're making it up. I'm sure they're not looking down there, because that's not what the MRI or the thing is supposed to do. And the first thing that happens when they shut it off, guess what I'm doing?
Looking to see if
Shaking my head, okay, I'm glad it's dry down there. All right. Go to the bottom of 96. Your author, Myers, is about to take you on a journey through the brain. Focus on the name of each part, where it's at, and what it does. My favorite part is the top of 97. You know why it's my favorite part?
No.
They got cool names, and it's very easy to remember, right? The very, very base, you could feel it in yourself right here, right at the top of your spinal cord. If you could get through there, that's very well protected. I mean, you could hit yourself very hard. You don't want to, right? It's so well protected that if anything were to ever get through there, you're dead. All right? It's the most vital part of your brain to stay alive. It's the least vital part of your brain for anything else. It's called the medulla oblongata.
Oblong.
And it
What?
is a very,
Medulla
very
oblongata.
large part of the brain for creatures that aren't very bright, like alligators or dinosaurs. They had giant medullas that controls their heartbeat and their breathing. You have no control over the medulla. It does its own thing. If it doesn't work, you don't have to worry about it, because you're already dead.
Of course you ain't gotta worry.
It has no thinking
Dang.
involved in it.
If it doesn't work, you ain't gotta worry
Now,
about it.
this is also called the older part of the brain, because all organisms have large ones of this, and then the smarter the organism is, like up to us, the less developed that has to be, because we've picked up other brains on the top of that brain. I mean, other parts of the brain.
I was about to say.
Other parts of the brain. Now, right above the medulla is the pons. And in the front of your thing, I told you that I'm going to give you some tricks. I want you to write this down as a trick. All right? What if you saw a pond, this is not pond, it's pond, P-O-N-S. But if you did see a pond, just imagine everything's quiet, and you're looking at a pond. Even if there's not much movement, what is going to be happening on the surface and around the pond? It's going to be things moving. Little ripples, maybe insects, bugs, frogs, whatever. There's going to be a lot of movement. What do you suppose the ponds controls?
Movement.
Your movement. Helps you with your movement. So
Yes.
ponds, then put pond next to it. And I'm hoping you'll remember pond. If you ever need to come up with a brain part that helps you with movement, you got one. You got one right there. Right. Now, this part of your brain that controls movement is near the bottom of your brain. The lower everything is on your brain, the less important it is for our smarts, and the more important it is just for us to stay alive. So the pons, why would the pons have been very important for your ancient ancestors?
To move.
Well, if a herd of buffaloes coming at them, it'll help them get out of the way.
Yeah.
If a dinosaur is about to eat them, it might make them faster. If they're trying to catch a bird or a fish to eat, this would be their movement. Okay? Above the pons, and here's another one for your front. Okay? Is the reticular formation. Now, this is a stretch, but it'll help you remember it. So go ahead in the front on the tips. Write down reticular formation. And for my students that have already had this, I think they know where I'm going. What does the word reticular kind of remind you of?
Rectangle.
Rectangular.
Oh,
And what do
Oh,
you
yeah,
sleep on
Big.
that is rectangular?
man, and it help you with sleep. So you'll take it.
Arousal. So the reticular formation, change that to, but make sure you don't write it this way like if you're answering an essay. Change it to rectangular formation, You can even put bed next to it.
I know it.
You better write these down, you'll never remember them down the line.
I remember because I wrote it down earlier while I was doing the
Okay.
module.
Rectangular formation, which is your bed, and this controls arousal. I'm not talking about sexual arousal, I'm talking about arousal as in you're awake or you're sleepy.
Oh.
Okay? Awake or
Oh.
sleepy. Now, Natalie, I didn't need to hear that. Now listen, if your reticular formation becomes retarded in some way, like doesn't work. Retarded just means slows down, we just changed that word to mean something.
Oh, yeah.
But if your reticular formation, listen, your reticular formation becomes damaged and it doesn't work, you will go into a coma from which you will never come out of.
So you
Wait,
die.
so
You will
you're
be permanently asleep,
Oh my
Fine,
god.
and if they can't get you out of it,
you
you're
dead.
dead.
If
I knew it. Everything ends with death with you.
No, only on these bottom ones.
Oh,
Okay?
That's crazy.
Actually, you can destroy a lot of the top brain and still be alive.
Right,
but you'll be slow, right?
you'll be mentally different.
Slow.
All right, listen up.
Oh,
On
Not
top
retarded.
of the reticular formation is the thalamus. And this is an important one. And then I'm leaving the old brain. This is the brain stem, the old brain. The thalamus is like, can you imagine if New York City taxi cabs, and there's like a central hub
Don't
that's
trust
getting
them.
all the calls to tell everybody where to go. Just imagine that's how they're doing it. And this central hub has got like 1 million different receptionists, and they're all picking up the phone. Oh, yeah, we got a cab going to this, we got a cab going here, we got another cab over there and there. Just imagine that. All the information coming in and all the thalamus takes in all the information from all your senses, and it routes it.
With the motor.
It routes it to wherever it needs to go. Now, there is one sense that is so old and so important to us that it bypasses the thalamus completely. And it must have something to do with our ancestors, the sense of smell.
I knew it.
All right? So your sense of smell does not go through the thalamus, it goes into a different part of your brain, the amygdala or another area that we'll get into later. Okay? Let's repeat that and then we'll go for it. I know this has been a long lecture today, but I wasn't here, and I probably will do another one, a long one tomorrow, just so we can try to stay on time. Bottom of your brain, heart rate and medulla. Right above it for movement.
Bonds.
Arousal,
Rectangular formation.
rectangular formation, that's fine, just make sure you know what, if you wrote rectangular formation,
They'll be fine with it.
I bet they might give it to you. I mean, it sounds close enough to reticular formation, I'll bet you, I wouldn't do it, but I'll bet you get the point for it, and they would say that's just that somebody's spelling the error. They want to give you points if you're right. And then the router for all your senses.
Thalamus. Except smell, yeah. Thalamus.
All right, I just took care of all of the old brain. Now let's go to what we would call the midbrain. And the first thing I want you to know, I don't have a trick for you on this, but go to the brain, the cerebellum. The cerebellum is also known as like the little brain, and the cerebellum is if you're a really, really good athlete, your cerebellum's probably doing it. It's not just the movement and the coordination, but it's all of that together. If you start drinking a little alcohol, the first place it goes into your brain is the cerebellum, and that controls your coordination. That's why your police officers, they will have you on the road trying to walk a straight line, and you can't do it because your cerebellum has been affected. Okay? So your
I have
cerebellum-
something to tell you, a trick for them to remember, because they already remembered it.
Yeah, I
Okay.
remembered it.
The cerebellum, all that, key part of it, balance, right?
Yep.
If the girl named Sarah had a bell on her head, she'd be trying to keep it up there by balancing.
Yeah,
Cerebellum,
Write
balance.
it, write it, go to the front, I like it.
They wrote it last time. I
You
taught
wrote it
this.
last time?
I typed
Whoa.
it.
Wait, so did you come up with that hippo one?
Yes, no, he came over with hippocampus.
He came up with the hippo. I was about to say, that was a good one.
To be
too.
honest, he had the hippo.
All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Now, the next thing I want to make sure you know is the limbic system. Now, the limbic system, limbic
Yeah, why don't
means
you just do
border.
that, Sean?
It's between the two. Okay? Now,
Why don't you just do
did you give them one word to remember the limbic system?
that? Limbic system?
All right, go to the front. I got one word that will help you remember. You got to stutter a little bit on this word, though.
What?
What?
Half.
That's That's not a.
Half.
Foreman, just
You can't say half,
Foreman,
happy,
no.
but you know why?
Do you need some
Two
water?
H's, AP. Two H's, AP. Half.
That's
That's your limit.
That's not even a word. That's one word we already.
Does it have to be a real word?
Yes.
Yes, it
Otherwise,
does.
it's not a word.
I think it's easier to remember sometimes.
No, Foreman.
That's all I'm gonna remember.
H-H-A-P, half.
Yeah,
hat.
hat.
Now below that, write down hypothalamus. Hypothalamus is your master of your master, all right? And Myers even gives you as a AP exam tip on 99. If you're stuck and you got to come up with a brain part that does something, just guess hypothalamus. If you can't come up with anything else, the hypothalamus does so much that you might guess right just by guessing hypothalamus, all right? The other H is the hippocampus. He already gave you the hippopotamus on a college campus, and if you saw a hippopotamus on a college campus, you'd never forget it. The hippocampus is your memory system. There's other memory systems too. The hippocampus is the big one for that. The A is the amygdala. The amygdala is your control center for the strong emotions, most particularly fear and aggression. Make sure you get that down. Make sure you know it's fear and aggression. Other emotions too. Now, if your amygdala has done something, you're never going to forget it. The amygdala won't let you forget. The amygdala is so vital. Should we remember something that we're really afraid of?
Yeah.
Yes.
It might be important for your life itself. And something that you're aggressive to, again, it might be as important enough for life itself. H-H-A-P. What's the P?
The
Part? Oh, no.
P is the.
Wait.
The P, the pituitary?
Yes.
Isn't that right?
Yes.
Okay, pituitary. That's your master gland. What's the
P is
master of the
The
master?
little P size thing?
Little P.
So P is for the little P thing, pituitary.
Yeah, the P is for the little P thing.
He's like 4 car lengths behind, but he's still on the
Yeah.
train.
Yeah.
So, your limbic system, what is the limbic system itself? What does that mean? It's the border. No, it's the border between the old brain and the newer brain. Alright? What are the 4 parts of it? What's the word to remember? Half. Alright? What's the first H? What's
Hypothalamus.
the hypothalamus do?
Your memory.
The master.
Master of the
Master
master. Of the
of
P thing.
masters.
Yes.
The master gland that tells all the glands to do everything is the P
everything.
thing, pituitary. What tells that to work is the hypothalamus. Alright? What's the second H?
Hippo.
What's that do?
Memory.
Memory. What's the A?
Amygdala.
Strong emotions like
Fear and aggression.
aggression. Let's move on.
What is the
Go
P?
to page
Wait,
100.
what's the T?
Pituitary.
Oh.
Go to page 100. There is actually, and if this is on 100, I'm not going to read it because we're hurt for time. They did a study of rats, and they were trying to get the rat's reticular formation. So what were they trying to do to the rat?
Make it go to sleep.
Put it to
Go to
sleep
sleep
or get it
or-
very much aroused and active. Instead, they hit an area of the hypothalamus that we now know as the pleasure center.
Don't.
Very small spot. Okay?
On a rat.
And it could be pleasure in any way, shape, or form, but it's triggering intense joy, intense satisfaction. They could just be laying there like this, and this is getting hit, and they're like, wow! What they would ever have in their entire life. Now, for them to keep this going, the rats were trained to hit some particular button or whatever, and it would send something pleasurable to them. These rats hit the button. Yeah, maybe a girl rat, I don't know. But these rats hit the button so many times they killed themselves by hitting the button because the pleasure was so great that they actually killed it. They would walk across electrified floors. And I don't know if they were smiling or not, but it was kind of like they were happy as they were dying.
Oh, God.
The pleasure center had been, that's how powerful your brain is.
Yeah.
And that's for a rat. Now, I don't think we would do that, I would hope.
I think
Lauren, why do you think people do drugs?
Yeah, I was about to say, why do you think people do
That's a good
drugs?
point.
brains
I'm-
are, yeah.
All right.
Brain.
You guys are reading this, so I don't have time to go over the bottom. Look at the top of 101. All those things. The only thing on there I hadn't talked about yet is the corpus callosum. That's the split in the middle. That's another topic coming up. Amygdala, hippocampus, left and right hemisphere, cerebellum, spinal cord, medulla, pons, reticular, pituitary, we covered them all. Let's answer some questions, and then what I'll try to do tomorrow is 12 and 13, and then I'll have to try to do 14 and 15 Wednesday. I'm sorry, but when I miss a day, then it kind of backs us up, so.
No, you did a good job, dude.
So
You
what?
did a great job. Did you do 12 as well, or you didn't get?
I did a bit of 12. I covered the lobes and I covered the switching in the brain.
Yeah,
Very
we did
good.
the
Right, Let's answer the questions. While I'm answering the questions, will you see if you can find the cards right there?
Oh, show, boss man.
Computer enhanced x-rays to create brain images. You guys did these
C.
too?
Wait, we answered
Yeah,
the
we
questions. I can't remember the answers. though.
Computer enhanced x-rays.
D. C.
The CT scan.
Yeah,
The
I was
CT
right.
scan is like your x-ray. This is why my wife wasn't as happy with these as the PET scan, because they're not as refined, and she wanted to know where, by the way, you know how they found the cancer in me and stuff? It never, ever showed up on a CT scan. Never, it was never on a CT scan once, nor was it ever in the blood markers.
But they found it in the PET scan.
No.
No.
What they did is when they did the scope, they knew it was there. And so even when they took pictures particularly of the area that they knew it was, still wasn't there. So the CT scan only gets so